How often have you paid your credit card bill thinking it was on time, only then to be hit by a fine? People can be taken unawares by the amount of time it takes banks to move money from one account to another.
Well, from this week, nearly all payments should be made on the same day, thanks to a new European law. With us to explain, Paul Lewis from Radio 4's Moneybox programme. Hello, Paul.
Hello, John.
So, banks have been forced to do this, have they?
Well, yes, they've been trying to introduce faster payments, as they call it, for 2 or 3 years. But now Europe has stepped in and said, look, this is too slow. You've got to do it. 1st of January is the deadline. So it does mean that if you've got a credit card bill that's due on a particular date, you know, and many of us have done this, and you think, oh, I'll transfer the money on that day or the day before, which hasn't been quick enough in the past. Now it has to go through on that day, and so you meet the deadline and you avoid that £12 fine. And of course it also means that other bills can be paid exactly on the day they're due. You keep the money longer. Now I have to say I've had a couple of tweets this morning from Louise and Madeline, who both say that they tried to do that since the 1st of January, but it still took 2 or 3 days. Now I don't know why. I think that was a mistake. I'll be looking into both of those. One was over the bank holiday, but that really shouldn't affect things. But I'll be looking into those. Oh,
so it should go in even if it's a bank holiday?
Well,
you don't have to wait for the next working day?
No, the faster payment system works 24/7. The European law says next working day, but the banks don't have any means of delaying it. So really, if it's going through faster payments, it should happen on that day.
It's all computerised. You should just ping straight in.
Yes, of course.
What would the bank be doing with our money all that time?
They've been hanging on to it. That's the point.
Getting the interest on it.
Getting the interest. And of course, if you do turn up late, they've been fining you. The one exception, though, and I must stress it, because I didn't mention this earlier, cheques, they are not included. Carol Hollett says, does this apply to cheques which banks sit on for 3 to 4 working days? No, it doesn't. Cheques are still going through the old, slow clearing system because they don't really like cheques at all.
OK, so from today, well, actually, from January the 1st, yes, every single bank should be processing your money on the same day. It
should, yes, and it's good news for people who pay government departments, for example, your tax. That should go through on the same day rather than waiting 3 days. If you've got self-assessment this year, that has to go in by the 31st. That's a Tuesday. Previous years, you'd have had to make the payment the Friday before. Now you can make it on that Tuesday.
So long as it's less than £10,000?
There are limits with most of the banks of 10,000, not all of them, some go up to 100. But yes, the £10,000 limit applies, and with those you can actually get round that by making more than one payment 1 day apart. So that's £10,000 a day.
What about the hours of the working day? Say, you know, it's a Friday afternoon and you're not quite ready. When does Friday finish and then suddenly become Monday?
Well, because these are going through faster payments, that works, as I said, 24/7. So that should happen within a couple of hours, even though the European law says next working day, but it should happen within a couple of hours.
Are there any accounts that this doesn't apply to?
Yes, there are. Now, we've had a number of questions about this. It doesn't apply to savings accounts unless they're instant access, so it doesn't apply to ISA accounts, doesn't apply to savings accounts with restrictions. I was asked about building societies. Yes, it does apply to building societies equally, but only for these instant access or current accounts. Now, I have to confess, some questions I don't know the answer to
Paul
yet.
Lewis stumped.
I know. Does it apply to PayPal? I don't think so, but I'm going to find out, and I'll be tweeting the answers later at Paul Lewis Money. And does it apply for childcare vouchers? Now, that was one I hadn't thought of. Don't know, we'll be finding out and tweeting the answer to that. And also people ask, will my pension, there's Marion lives in Spain and watches Breakfast, which is marvellous, isn't it? And she says, will my pension arrive instantly because it normally takes 5 days from the UK? It should do, because this is an EU law, so it should do. But again, I'll be looking into that and confirming that later. So lots of little fiddly bits, but overall, this is good news, and as you said, Bill, as it should be.
OK, so Paul Lewis Money is where people can find answers to some of those
Money, I'll be
unresolved
the unresolved answers during the course of the day. Yeah.
Lovely. Paul, thank you very much. Paul Lewis.
Coming up, BBC News Channel has the latest